Hello everyone, today I'm going to review the LA-EA2 adapter from Sony, and here it is. My guess is it means lens adapter E mount to alpha mount 2, but anyway, so this adapter, what it enables you to do is to have, first of all, face detection, autofocus on the NEX system, and second, you can use any alpha mount lens on this, so that will be from Sony, Minolta, and Zeiss, for example. So this is the second generation of the adapter. The first generation didn't have phase array detection, also didn't have a motor, whereas this one does. So in terms of feature, like I mentioned, this one uses face detection autofocus, and how it does that is through the translucent mirror technology of Sony's. So it reflects the light into a face detection array on the bottom here, and that transmits the autofocus information to the NEX camera. So this is the alpha mount side, and this is the back. It tells you not to poke through it. It's good advice. So this is the E mount side, and if you open both sides, you'll see that it is indeed translucent. Right, this is the same technology as in all the Sony Alpha D SLT cameras, so the same translucent mirror technology. So besides that, it also has a motor inside, so that sets it apart from the first adapter. So with this motor, you can use any autofocus lens that doesn't have a motor inside, which fits this mount. So that will autofocus for you. And you can see the little motor screw drive right here. For this review, I'm going to use this adapter on the NEX-5N mirrorless camera, and I'm going to attach the Sony 35mm 1.8 DT SAM lens. Okay, so here I'm going to demonstrate putting on the adapter. So first, remove the E mount side. So I'm going to line the white dot with the white dot over here, so that you can already see it's pretty big. And now I am going to put on the alpha lens. So line up the orange dot with the orange dot here. Very thoughtful of them. And here we go. So this is the setup of NEX-5N with the LA-EA2 adapter with the 35mm 1.8 alpha lens. In terms of size, let me just give you a comparison. This is the E mount 18mm to 55mm kit lens. So you can see that it's bigger. But remember, this is a prime lens and this is a zoom lens. So for prime lens, this is pretty big relative to the NEX kit lens. So in terms of size from the front. So as you can tell, when you're using this like this, it looks a little ridiculous, right? Because the camera is kind of small and the lens is so big. So what I would recommend is, if you're indeed going to be using this a lot, is to get the leather half case for the NEX-5N. This also works for 5, by the way. So what this does is it screws on the bottom on the tripod mount, and as you can see, now it looks a little more proportional. So also the grip makes it much easier to hold. The grip makes it about the equivalent size grip as the NEX-7. So it's a pretty good case to use if you're going to use the adapter. So here's what appears on the LCD when you attach the adapter. Instead of the box you see before, you have now 15 autofocus points, of which 3 of them are cross type. So this is in right now wide area focusing, so all 15 points are available and single autofocus. I'm just gonna show just briefly what the autofocus speed is like. So there's a bit of lag, but it's overall pretty fast. Of course, this will depend on the lens as well. Not quite sure how the 35mm fares in terms of speed with the other alpha lenses, but it's certainly acceptable. And I think in all cases I've shot with this adapter, it's faster than the intrinsic contrast detection, even after the firmware upgrade. So these are the options you have for the autofocus points when using the adapter. You have wide, which is all 15 points, and it chooses which point for you. There's spot, which is the middle, and there's loco. So loco is all 15 are available, and then you can move it around. So kind of like the typical way you use a DSLR. So now you press OK. So in loco, right now I have the center selected. From my testing and what's being shown right now, it feels faster when I'm doing loco. But one disadvantage of this mode is that this soft key right now is turned into, is now a function for moving the focus point around. So whatever you had here, you now lose it. So if you had ISO shortcut here, now you can't do that. So let me change the focus point to spot. So now there's just a square in the middle, that's for focusing. So fast, I would say about the same as loco when the middle is activated, but definitely faster than the wide autofocus option. What you're hearing is the sound of the lens, which is not a silent motor lens. But the adapter itself does not produce any sound, except when you rattle it. It actually has some rattling sounds due to the translucent mirror in there. So now let me try continuous autofocus. So with contrast detection, this is not really possible, or it's not very, it doesn't do very well when you actually have moving objects, but let's see how this does. So now I focus on this. You can hear the motor constantly adjusting. Sounds pretty busy, but it's doing a pretty good job. And actually I shot an event in very dark conditions with continuous autofocus on, and this performed very well. It locked focus on people's faces as they moved around, and so it was, I'd say the continuous autofocus capability of this is one reason you would get this adapter. So one thing that happens when you have the adapter on and you have autofocus is that the peaking function is disabled, and the only way to re-enable it is by making your lens, switching it into the manual focus mode. So now you'll see there's peaking, I'm sorry, but once you move it into autofocus mode, it disappears. So that's one downside, in that I usually use peaking even when I'm doing autofocus, so I have DMF enabled usually on the NEX, so I can correct the focus as I see fit, and the peaking is always enabled. But when you use the adapter, you can't do that. So that's one disadvantage of using the adapter. So in terms of battery life, I've shot several hundred pictures with this adapter, and I see no difference with the adapter on and with the adapter off. So it's as if it's not impacting the battery life very much. Also, because it has a mirror inside, a translucent mirror, I'm sorry, it loses about 1/3 of a stop of light. So that probably doesn't matter too much in most scenarios. Now, the question is, when would you want to get this adapter? So one thing is, most alpha lenses don't have image stabilization because the alpha camera bodies have in-body stabilization, whereas NEX cameras have no stabilization in camera but have them in the lenses. So for example, this kit lens has what they call the Optical Steadyshot in there. So with the adapter, you get none of them. So you'll never have any image stabilization with the adapter on. That limits you a lot because you can't use long focal length lenses unless you have a very good tripod. So I think one of the few uses this adapter allows you is to have large aperture, relatively short focal length lenses, such as this 35mm 1.8. So currently the NEX system does not have a 35mm, so this is the only alternative as of now. It might be different later this year, but who knows. So if you have like a wide angle lens or a short portrait lens or a standard lens that you already have in your collection and you have an NEX camera, then I would say yes, the adapter is useful for you. But if you have a 200mm alpha lens that you like to use with this, first of all, you get no stabilization. Second of all, I mean, if you have such a large lens, then why bother with a small body? Because you might as well just use an SLT or SLR with such a big lens. So this adapter really caters to a kind of a niche market where maybe you really want to have a large aperture 35mm or 50mm lens with the NEX body. So I would say that's one of the few uses. Also, of course, if you want continuous autofocus with those lenses, then this enables you to do that. In terms of autofocus speed, with the new firmware on the NEX-5N, the face detection doesn't offer you that much better speed. In low light, of course, this performs much better than the contrast detection, but if you don't shoot a lot of indoor low light shots, then that might not matter to you. So hopefully that has helped you decide on whether you need this adapter, and also hope these tests showed you what it looks like, how it handles, and what kind of functions it enables and disables on the NEX camera. Alright, thanks for watching.